This aircraft was the fastest piston engine German plane of World War II. It was a unique design, with two engines in the front and rear of the fuselage, and it had an interesting history. So let's see how the Dornier DO 335 was developed. The origins of the DO 335 and its tandem engine construction reach back all the way to the First World War, when Claude Dornier designed flying boats featuring tandem engines. Many of his designs foreshadowed features that later appeared on the DO 335. The DOJ and the giant DOX both used tandem engines. He continued to work on the concept of using tandem engines during the 1930s, and used it again on an experimental fast bomber project, the P-59. The aircraft used for this project was modeled after the DO-17 bomber, but it was only 40% of the size and used a mid-mounted engine driving a propeller in the back using a long tubular drive shaft. Though the design showed promise, the project was stopped in 1940, but Dornier earned a lot of experience from it, which he used in the next design proposed to a new tender in 1942. The Reich Air Ministry issued a new tender for a high-speed bomber in November 1942. The specifications initially asked for 760 km/h top speed and 1000 kg of bomb load. But soon after, the specifications were changed to 750 km/h top speed, 500 kg of bomb load, and a range of 2000 km. The specifications were sent to multiple companies: Arado, Dornier, Heinkel, Junkers, and Messerschmitt. Interestingly, all the manufacturers proposed quite unique designs for this tender. Arado entered with their E561 project, which was a conventional-looking aircraft with twin engines. It looked somewhat similar to the Messerschmitt Bf-110 heavy fighter. But on the Arado design, the engines were not mounted on the wings, as in a conventional design. They were placed on the wing roots, and their power was transferred to the propellers through a system of drive shafts. Sadly, there's almost nothing known about the Heinkel design, but Junkers again entered with interesting designs. They proposed three different variations to the RLM. The EF-115 used two engines, both installed in the fuselage, and two counter-rotating propellers in the nose. Each engine was connected to one propeller. The EF-130 had a similar fuselage, but it used the so-called mixed drive system: a piston engine and a propeller in the nose, and a U-mode jet engine in the tail. The EF-135 used similar propulsion to the EF-130, but the fuselage was a twin-boom design. These were also rejected as they were found to be too complicated, and because of the delays and availability of the jet engines. Maybe the Messerschmitt design was the least unique, as they proposed their Bf-109Z twin aircraft, using two Bf-109 fuselage mated together at the wings. The Messerschmitt design was a viable solution, but they didn't have enough free manufacturing capacity. And finally, Dornier's proposal, the P231, was the design that later became the DO 335. Because Messerschmitt didn't have free capacity to build a new fast bomber, and the other designs were too complicated, the Dornier design was selected as a winner. Late 1942, Dornier was notified that because of the increasing Allied bombing rates, the RLM doesn't need the new fast bomber anymore, but a multi-role fighter from the same layout would be accepted. This led to delays in the development, as the aircraft had to be modified for the new role. The first V1 prototype was completed almost a year later, and made its maiden flight in October 1943. It was very similar to the production variants, but can be easily identified by the oil cooler under the engine. The aircraft was a unique design, and most of its features can be traced back to its twin-engine construction. Because of the rear-mounted propeller, it had to have a tricycle landing gear, and a very tall one. It featured a cruciform tail, where a lower vertical fin was mounted as well to protect the propeller on takeoff and landing. Because of the rear-mounted propeller, an ejection seat was needed, and also the propeller, the upper tail fin and the canopy would blow off before the ejection. The design featured an internal bomb bay at the center of the aircraft, where it could carry 500 kilograms of bombs. The plane was enormous for a single-seat fighter aircraft, with a length of 13.85 meters and a wingspan of 13.8 meters. It was closer in size to medium bombers than to other fighter aircrafts. The unusual construction had many useful effects. The plane didn't lean to one side if an engine stopped working, and even with one engine it could reach 620 km/h speed. The test flights went fairly smoothly during late 1943 and early 1944. No structural weaknesses were found, and only one accident happened on the V2 prototype, when the rear engine overheated and caught fire. After the first test flights, the RLM ordered 14 prototypes, 10 pre-production aircrafts, 11 production aircrafts, and 3 of the two-seater trainer variants. All of the DO-335 variants, with a few exceptions, could be used as a fighter bomber, as they all had the bomb bay and could carry 500 kg bomb load. The V10 prototype was the base for the night fighter variant, built with a second cockpit for an additional crew member. The two-seat trainer variants were based on this model as well, and they were very similar externally. In May 1944, as part of the emergency fighter program, the project was given maximum priority. But this was too late, as by that time the Allied air attacks started to cripple the German industry, and in 10 months the war ended. The first pre-production DO-335A0 variants were delivered in July 1944. Though the Air Ministry had big plans for the plane, including several different models like reconnaissance, night fighter, and dedicated ground attack variants, the reality of crumbling German industry and lack of materials meant that the total number produced, including all the prototypes and pre-production models, was just somewhere between 30 and 40. There was even a twin version planned, the DO-635, which would have been two 335 fuselage joined at the wing. As we mentioned, the DO-335 was a very big aircraft, with a length of 13.85 meters and a wingspan of 13.8 meters. It had an empty weight of 7,260 kilograms and a maximum takeoff weight of 9,600 kilograms. For a comparison, both the dimensions and the weight figures are very close to the A-20 Havoc medium bombers. The aircraft used two Daimler DB603 engines producing 1800 horsepower each. With these engines it had a maximum speed of 763 km/h and a cruise speed of 685 km/h. Its range varied between 1400 and 2000 km, depending on engine settings, and its service ceiling was 11,400 meters. The standard armament of the DO-335 included a 30mm engine-mounted cannon and two additional 20mm cannons in the nose. As secondary armament it would carry 500 kg bomb load internally and 250 kg bombs under the wings. The production of the DO-335A1 version only started late 1944, and the first ones were finished in January 1945, but not long after in April the factory was already taken over by US forces. Only 13 production variants were finished, including two trainer versions. No combat action is known involving these fighters, only a few sightings from Allied pilots. In April 1945, a flight of Hawker Tempest planes spotted a DO-335 over Germany and tried to chase it, but they had to give up as the German fighter was much faster. Some of them were captured, and from various unfinished models, a few others were assembled after the war, so the Allies can test them. Both the British and the French tested these planes, and two of them were shipped to the US aboard HMS Reaper, amongst other German aircraft. Sadly, most of these planes didn't survive long. One crashed in Britain during testing, others were disposed after evaluation, and today there's only one surviving example, which can be found in the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and in the comments let me know if there's any interesting events or vehicles you'd like to see.